Hello.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us. For those that are going to be tuning in, I'm Heather Duke with Visiting Angels, and today I have with me, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Margaret Johnson. I'm a seniors real estate specialist licensed in North and South Carolina.
So, tell me a little bit about what led you to specialize in working with seniors and their families.
So I have always loved seniors. My grandparents were my very best friends. They lived one house down from me, and their friends were also my friends. So I was old even when I was young, and so I have always loved the character, the wisdom, the freedom that seniors have, um, all of the different pieces of that. So, fast forward to in college, I actually focused in on the senior demographic in college. I lived in and managed a small retirement home in Tennessee during my senior years. Lived in a little upper room apartment, and I took care of the 7 seniors that lived with us. And then I had kids, raised my kids, all the different things. And as they were leaving the nest, I tried to figure out, okay, what am I going to be now? Like, what's act 2 or 3, whatever you want to call it, of Margaret's life. And so I went into senior move management. I found somebody who was going in, cleaning out houses for people, organizing them, working to pack them up and move them mostly into senior communities. And I absolutely loved it. But I got frustrated with that because I got really close to clients for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, got them moved, and then never saw them again. And so there was a frustration. I wanted a little bit more long term relationship with my new friends. So then I became a life enrichment director in an independent living community. So now I had seen both pieces of the puzzle. I had been on the one side where people are moving into, and now I was in a place where I'm receiving them and I am helping them transition into that senior community. So I saw how it affected them when moves went well, when moves went poorly, all the different pieces, family members who were supportive, family members who were not supportive, people who had no idea about their resources in their area, all of those types of things. So several years ago, when I left that job, I really sat down and thought, okay, how do I put all this together? How do I become that local resource in our area for seniors? Then the real estate piece, because that's how I can be of service to people and also get paid, basically. And so I figured out that if I got my real estate license and became a senior real estate specialist, I could help people through every piece of that move and be that resource, take their hand on one side and get them safely where they're going on the other. And the listing the house was the piece where I got paid, which means also that nobody has to pay for my services until the house sells, which is a nice thing. So that's how I got where I am today.
So cute. I love hearing people's backgrounds. I think it's funny because, I wasn't in senior industry before I came to North Carolina. But my mom, when somebody was like, what does Heather do? And she was explaining it. And then she said, it all makes sense. You would disappear as a child, like at the mall, and she'd find me sitting on a bench talking to some elderly person. So full circle.
Right. Right. Well, it's funny that you say that, Heather, because my husband still makes fun of me to this day because I told him one time about how when it would snow in Greenville, South Carolina, which was very rarely, but when it would, I would be the one going door to door, knocking on the homes of seniors, making sure that they had their milk and their bread and stuff like that. And so he thinks it's just hysterical that that's how I would spend my snow day. But that's how I spent my snow day.
There you go.
So
Still
there you
knocking
go.
on doors.
That's right.
So, what are some unique challenges that seniors face when it comes to buying and selling a home?
If I had to say the top 3 challenges that they face is, first of all, it's usually a grief process. And if they are selling their home, in most cases, they've been there quite a while. They probably maybe still be there with the one they moved in with, but a lot of times they are moving alone. And their spouse or child or whoever has died in that home. And so it's very much an emotional grief process. It's not just I'm selling a place where I lived. It's I'm selling and moving away from everything that this house represents, everything that is was important to me, and a sense of safety. So there's that grief piece. I would say the second biggest thing is just fear. A lot of times when people bought their home, it was 30, 40 years ago, and we live in a digital world now. How do I navigate that digital world? How do I sign documents? What does it mean? We're in a much more litigious society now than we used to be too. I mean, I just had a gentleman last night we're listing his house. We're helping him buy another one. He's downsizing. And he said to me, when I bought a house, I just went down there, told him I wanted to buy it. And it was just this simple process. And it's not simple anymore. You know, it's very complicated. And then I would say the third thing is the stuff. What am I going to do with my stuff? So maybe I need help identifying a smaller place to live, maybe a small patio home. Maybe I'm moving into senior community, whatever that looks like. But the stuff is a thing. And a lot of time their health situations or even just their mental health situations, just because of the emotional toll of it all, makes it really challenging to deal with the stuff. And so to me, those are the three top biggest challenges is just fear in stepping forward alone, dealing with the grief and the stuff.
So how do you support them physically and emotionally, practically, I guess, during their moves?
So a lot of times obviously I come in with empathy and understanding because I tend to be a compassionate person anyway, but I listen to their story. I listen to where they've been. I listen to where they're going, and I help them and work with them to navigate a plan. Okay, so we're going to make the plan. We're going to make the plan. How do we get from point A to point B? How do we deal with the things? I listen to how many family members are involved, maybe how many family members are not involved, all of the different pieces, the financial piece, how much money do you need to have to go where you're going? A lot of people will call me and say, will you just tell me about how much my house is worth so I know that when I sell it, I'll have this lump sum of money to pay for care, because senior care is expensive. All of the different things. So we sit down and I listen and we come up with a plan, and I basically join in with them and I say, I'm taking your hand and I'm going to be with you now, but I'm also going to be with you over here. And when I get you where you're going, I hope that we have such a good relationship that I stop by later and drop off cookies and we visit a little bit. So that's kind of my goal, is to help them navigate that whole process. And so they can step forward with confidence because they've got somebody on their side.
So can you share a memorable story or an experience you've had working with a senior client?
Um, yes, I had a dear client last year who had lost her husband a year previous. She was still grieving through that process. She knew where she wanted to go. She wanted to move into an independent living community in our area. She had kind of already identified that and figured it out. She had called me. She said, Margaret, you came recommended. Can you help me through the process? And of course, I went over and talked to her, heard all the things, and we visited for quite some time. But she sat at the table and she just wept with me, and I wept with her. And she said, I'm saying goodbye to him all over again. And it wasn't just the house, was where he was and where he died. Um and she had not gone through his things yet, all the different things. So she's a strong woman. She knew exactly what she needed to do, but had no children nearby, had some good friends, but all of them seniors as well. So nobody that could really come in with energy and hope and possibility for her, in a sense. We sat down, we came up with a plan. We began the process. I recommended some different vendors to her to come in and help her pack, and they did, and did an estate sale and all of the different things. But then in the inspection process, we realized there were some issues with her house. And so she was like, Margaret, I've never had these issues before. What am I going to do? I called in the right people. They helped her do it in a good way, so she wasn't scalped out of every penny she had, because that's a tendency with seniors too. You have contractors and people come in, they take advantage of the situation. So we navigated that together. And then on move day, we got her moved over where she is. She's happy as she can be. She's doing great. But when we went to closing, her house was in a trust and she was exhausted at this point. She was so tired. Nobody told her that she needed to get a bank account in the name of her trust in order to be able to put the check that she received at closing, deposit the check. We learned that at closing. And she said, Margaret, what am I going to do? I'm so tired. And I said, well, we have 2 more hours in the day before the bank closes at 5. Let's go to the bank. And I went to the bank with her, sat with her, helped the banker figure out what we needed to do, got the account open, got the check deposited. And we went out in the parking lot and she just hugged me and she said, I know without a shadow of a doubt, I never, ever could have done this without you. And that's what I worked for. That's the reason I do what I do, because I know that she needed to make that change. She needed a fresh start. She's got new friends. She's in whatever chapter of her life that she's now in, and she's thriving. But I know it would have been very hard for her to get there without somebody to help her. And I got to be the one, and it was an absolute privilege.
That's awesome. I think that that's one of, my payroll job is obviously visiting angels, but I love the genuine nature that you have and so many of our partners that you just give. So many people would just be like, you're gonna have to go to the bank and work it out. Like, I got dinner plans, but
Yeah.
you and so many others are willing to kind of just set that aside and say, okay, let's do the right thing, not necessarily the easy thing. And
Yeah.
that's so vital.
Yeah.
So we met each other obviously because of my job with visiting angels, and I think we're at a coffee somehow, some way. So in the partnership with visiting angels, how did that come about for you, and what makes that collaboration meaningful when you're working with families that you serve?
So, one of my favorite things about what has happened since I've gone into this business is meeting amazing partners. And we have a partner that we work together with, and she was one of the ones who was like, oh, you have to meet Heather. You have to meet Heather in your visiting angels branch. And she's the one I think that ultimately connected us. But to me, having vendors, partners, resources that I can count on to do the right thing, that are going to take care of the people that I am trusting them with, that is just vitally important. And you are one of those partners. And it's nice to know that if I have a senior who needs some home care or whatever that looks like in your area, I can call you and I know that they're going to be taken care of and not being taken advantage of. Because one of the things that I feel very strong about is that if somebody trusts me to help them and to partner with them, then I'm also going to protect them.
Yeah.
And so it's important to me that there's people like you out there, and services like you. And I think the services that Visiting Angels offers are very vital because of the impact of a very stressful move. Moving is hard when you're 25. It's really hard when you're 75, 80, 85, 90. And a lot of times health issues come up. You realize you don't have the strength to do the things that you need to do. So to know that we could partner with Visiting Angels and Visiting Angels would bring in an extra layer of support is very powerful.
Yeah, and I think that that's, just those little bits. I think that's one of the things I love the most about the model we have is, we can come in and help for an hour, or we
Mm-hmm.
can come help for 8 hours, but just being able to support them, because it's a lot. I mean, I've moved, you moved, it
Mm-hmm.
wears you out. And to,
Yeah.
have all the emotional part of it going with it. And we see that so many times, especially when somebody's transitioning out of their home into a community, just giving up that freedom in their
Mm-hmm.
mind and how hard that is for them. And sometimes the boxes just sit because they just don't know. It's been in the
Yeah.
same cabinet for 40 years. Where am I going to put it now?
Well, and Heather, I'll say this. I also volunteer as an ombudsman in South Carolina, so I'm in and out of the communities. But one of the most shocking statistics that they taught us when I was doing my training was that 60% of everybody in long-term care in South Carolina has no one. Well, they didn't start in long term care with no one. They're often in their homes with no one. So, when a company like Visiting Angels can provide somebody to go in and lay eyes on somebody, to be a support, to help them realize that they're not alone in this world, that the world has not just abandoned them and left them, that is very meaningful, and it makes an impact on our whole community,
It really
that people know they're not alone. And Visiting Angels does that very well in making sure that people have somebody there for them to troubleshoot.
Oh, we had a lady, I mean, she was 94, called us the other day. She's perfectly intact. I mean, her mental space is great. And she said, I just want somebody to come check on me. That's
Mhm.
it. She doesn't have
Yeah,
family here. She just, stop by, take out her trash, do
right,
something just to, make sure she's good because nobody else is there checking on her. And that's
right.
heartbreaking in so many ways, to think of that. So, in this whole process, obviously, we started the Gracefully Aging Network in the midst of it. And I think you kind of got in on the front end of me trying to pull this off. So, what inspired you to join the network?
So first of all, you're brilliant.
Yeah.
And the concept that you have is amazing. When I started in this business, before I even was fully licensed in real estate, I started networking with people in the senior industry, whether it was placement people, home care people, cleaning people, whatever that looked like. I started figuring out who was around me and meeting them and learning about not only their needs in our community but how they serve seniors in the community well, and networking. And to me, the Gracefully Aging Network is a beautiful place to do just that, in an online presence where all the information's in one spot. So it just, to me, was a brilliant plan, because there's I mean, when I even thought about going into the business and doing what I doing, my first thought was I wanted to be the hub of the wheel. And so I knew where all the other resources were, but I was the one who knew about them and could communicate them well and share them with others. And Gracefully Aging Network does that beautifully. You have become the hub of the wheel, and you can see all the different branches and how that can work out. I was also already on a real estate um, mastermind that used the Mighty Network platform, and it made sense to me there. And so the way that you've developed it out, it just made practical sense to me. Why wouldn't I?
Well, thank you for your kind words. How has being part of the network, has it helped you grow professionally or connect with others in the industry?
So the biggest benefit that I have seen, outside of your little branding tips and your marketing tips on the different things that I read every once in a while, is just your cluster events, and how I've been able to be part of those events and know about other events in the area. The way that you can go in and post any events you have. Matter of fact, I have an event tonight with Visiting Angels of Rock Hill and for veterans. And I thought I should have posted that in the network, and I just haven't taken the time to do that. But the fact that it's a one-stop shop source, in a sense, to post all the events people are doing and the things, and then being able to pull together a cluster of people to do things together, so that we have a richer experience when we're out there. It just makes sense.
Do you think it's important for professionals like yourself to be part of that so that they can support aging adults in a better way?
Absolutely. It makes who I am and my knowledge base bigger. So if I can network, if I need somebody in a certain industry, I can go and find them and I can reach out to them and ask questions. And, maybe I meet somebody and they have a specific need and I go, okay, who do I ask? Because what I tell people a lot in my business is I may not know the answer, but I'm going to find the answer for you. And your network enables me to go in and message somebody and say, hey, do you all handle this? Or who should I go to? Because none of us can hold all the knowledge, right? So we have to, but we have to be that resource for others to do that. And so that enables me to do that. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What advice would you give to a family just starting the conversation about moving their loved one? Because I find that's a huge conversation. Most of them don't want to have it. And sadly, they wait till it's too late, especially in our business model. People are never calling to be proactive. It's always because they're being reactive to a situation.
It's very true. And they do that a lot of times because of financial piece. They may know that they need the care, but they're afraid of how much it's going to cost or whatever. But I don't know. There's two things that I notice, and I tell people usually at my first consultation with them is I ask, do you have your power of attorney and those items in place? And more, the longer I'm in the business, the more I realize how very, very important it is. And I mean, for instance, I asked a family today, I'm meeting with them tomorrow, and I said, are the powers of attorney in place? And she said, no, not yet. Well, that's fine, except even this last spring, I was working with this couple. We're selling their house, we're cleaning it out, we're doing all the things. And he's fully competent, able to sign for himself all of the different things, but he had a heart episode and he ended up in the hospital, and then he spent so many days down in rehab. Well, those rehab days ran into his closing date, and had he not had his power of attorney piece in place, the house would not have been able to close because he couldn't sign. He was on medication that would have allowed him to not do that. Thankfully, he had that piece in place. None of us know what tomorrow brings, but to have that backup plan in place for somebody to sign documents or make choices is really important. And then I would say the second thing is I meet too many people, and just like you spoke about, who want to make their own choices and they want to live independently, but they wait so long that they don't get to choose. And when I say choose, it could be choose where you're going to go, choose who's going to take care of you, choose what you're going to take with you. I mean, one of my saddest things when I was in independent living as a life enrichment director, a family moved mom in. They went in and chose everything that she was taking with her, and they brought her. Well, she came to me a weekend and she said, do you have a Bible? And I was like, well, I can get you a Bible. And she said, well, my kids didn't think it was important, so they didn't bring it. And I said, well, what else do you need? And she said, well, it just makes me sad because they they picked out the things that they liked. They didn't bring the things that were important to me in this move. And so I just want people to make change if they've got to make change, and do it when they get some choice in the matter. You've worked your whole life and you've saved up all this money, and you've, planned for your retirement, and you've paid off your house, and you've done all of these different things. But then you wait so long that you have a health episode or something happen that literally you lose every choice and somebody makes it for you. And that to me is the saddest. My goal is to help you be able to choose your path as long as you can choose it. And I think that's super important.
I agree. I think that that's something families need to hear is just, make sure that they're able to make the decisions, or you've had those discussions, at least know what mom and dad want versus,
Mm-hmm.
trying to just guess at it and then they end up miserable or sad. And that's so hard. Well, are there any red flags that you think families should be watching for, and what they should consider when they're talking about like downsizing and relocating?
I would say that some big red flags would be any kind of memory issues or dementia issues, because those issues get very prominent and can be very prominent quickly. and you need to make sure your documents are in order to take care of those kind of things. And like I said earlier, I believe that seniors should have as much choice as possible in the matter of what they're doing. I would say somebody who is falling a lot at home, that would be a big red flag that they need some extra help, either coming in with somebody like visiting angels, or do they need to be in community? What needs to happen there? And a lot of times UTIs come a lot with falls. So that's to me a sign that there's some maybe greater issue there. But then I would say the last one being people who are just choosing to isolate themselves all the time. They're not walking, they're not leaving their house, they're maybe not cleaning up after themselves, whatever that looks like, just sitting in front of the TV all the time. I think that those are major big flags that it's time to make a change. It's time to do something.
Yeah, yeah. The falls. I've learned so much about UTIs and falls and how all that works. Who knew?
Right. It's true though. It's a real I mean, it's a real deal.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. I mean, we almost lost my father earlier this year, and had my sister not gone over, and found him, and a UTI had caused him to go into sepsis. And, it's one of those things where we know that had she not shown up, we would have lost him. And it was just because of a UTI where it started.
Yeah.
And you just never know. And so I think, Heather, that's why it's really important that we don't let people be isolated. Whether it means there's in-home care coming, somebody stopping by. I spoke to a gentleman at an open house last week, and we started chatting, and he takes Meals on Wheels 5 days a week to people. And I told him, thank you. I said, because you're putting eyes on people that nobody else is seeing. And I said, that is so vitally important. And so just making sure that we serve our community, doing the best we can to keep people from living in isolation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what are some resources that you often share with your senior clients?
So I will offer, or sometimes depending on the need, I always listen and see what the needs are, but sometimes it's home care, somebody coming in. A lot of times I offer resources of a company that will come in and help you organize, maybe straighten things up, clean a little bit, especially if there's a hoarder type, and not even full on hoarder, but maybe there's just too much stuff in the way now, and you've got trip hazards, things like that. A lot of times that, plus they will help pack if there's a move coming, because you've got to be so careful when you're packing that you don't lift a box. I mean, I have a client right now that we're helping her sell her house. She literally walked over to her microwave, opened the door of her microwave, and broke her back. Now, I don't know how that happens, but when you reach a certain age, your bones just are not as strong as they used to be. And so I will often refer out for help for things like that. I refer movers to help them safely get things where they're going to go. I have a dear friend, and I was able to refer her to some hospice for her father. Whatever that need is. Obviously, I have contractors and um, uh, power washers, like people to clean your house, and people to clean inside, and people to fix things that are broken, things like that. So, I mean, I'd like to think, and I know I'm weaker than I think I am, but I like to think that I'm a plethora of resources for people so that they can get what they need done without it costing them a fortune, because at my core I'm pretty cheap, and I just like to pass that on to people if I can.
Yes, of course. Save a few bucks here and there. It adds up.
That's right. That's right. So do it well. I want to do things well, and I want to be fair, and I want to be honest. And I tell all my clients, you just need to know that I expect honesty from you. And I'm going to give it back to you. I mean, everything's maybe not always going to be rosy, and we're not going to pretend that it is, but we're going to get through it together.
So, what do you love most about what you do?
The people. I told you from the beginning that I got frustrated with my senior move management job because the relationships were not as long. I just really enjoy getting to know people and learning about where they've been, where they're going. I just helped a 91-year-old move, not even a month ago. And she looked at me and she said, I've just got to figure out who I am now. But to get to talk to her and kind of fantasize about what she could still do at her age if she wanted to. And it's the people and the fact that I know that I'm not leaving people alone. If I lost my husband and I had to move and I didn't have children, I would want somebody like me to come beside me and walk through whatever it was with me. And I hope that at the end of the day, that's what I'm doing, and that I'm making lives richer and safer, and just helping people who need a little help. We all need help, right?
Right.
And just to be that one who's doing that,
How does it feel? I mean, I think it feels good.
it feels really
I
good.
think we're in such an industry that you walk away feeling good inside about what you do for people, and you're helping them transition with dignity into the next phase, and
Yeah.
I think like I hear my mom in my background who just bought a new car, and she's like, well, it's probably the last car I'm gonna buy, and I'm like, oh, but you gotta wonder, how's that car guy feel knowing he just sold somebody their last vehicle. But
Right. He probably didn't care, Heather. He was probably just happy to be selling a vehicle, you know. I don't know. I love what I do. I'm I'm kind of project oriented anyway. If I start a project, I want to finish it. I'm not like a scrapbooker. We're not scrapbooking for years and years. When I come up with a plan for something, I am going to do my best to execute it and get it done. I am a problem solver. So I love the challenge. You know, there's people that call me and say, "All right, Mara, this is our challenge." And I'm like, "Let's go. Let's take this challenge and figure out how we can navigate it and do it well." And at the end of the day, like I said, for that client to turn to me in the parking lot and say, I could not have done it without you, I know she couldn't have either. But for her to know that and go, you made this possible. Not that I want the glory. I don't want the glory at all, but I want to know that I made her life better by what I did and what I sacrificed, or the hours that I spent, or whatever that looks like. It just feels good. Very thankful.
how can somebody get in touch with you? They want to sell their house, or they're just needing to find that realtor. What's the best way?
So my phone number is 704-968-3258. I'm sure that Heather has my contact information too. I have a website that's kind of under construction, but Margaret Johnson at kellerwilliams.com. Is that a website? Yeah. No, that's my email, margaretjohnson at kw.com. My website is margaretjohnson.kw.com, I believe. And I'm on Facebook, Margaret Johnson, Seniors Real Estate Specialist. If you went to the Senior Real Estate Specialist page put out with the National Association of Realtors, you could find me there as well. And I have a Google business page. So you can Google Margaret Johnson, Senior Real Estate Special, and see some reviews there and different things. But just know that I'm here and happy to answer questions. And even if it has nothing to do with the sale of your house and you just got a question or you need somebody, I'm happy to talk to you. My husband has just joined me in the business. So we're, moving forward together, and I'm both available to help anybody at any time.
So anything else you'd like for seniors or their families to know about you if they're watching this?
Um, I don't know, other than the fact that I really, really try to be honest and do what I say I'm going to do and answer the phone. And I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to do my best to be there for you when you need me.
Couldn't agree with you more. I can see that, and from the first time I met you. All right. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been fun. I appreciate what you do, all of it.
You're welcome. Glad to do it.
So thanks, Heather.